What do I have in common with Keanu Reeves? We both know that the key to having another American MotoGP champion starts right here with this hat. Welcome into Monday Morning MotoGP. Not on Monday this week because we were at Laguna Seca for MotoAmerica all weekend long. I didn't have time to record, so here we are. Deal with it. But before we get going, make sure you like, follow, share, mash all the buttons. This is posted or hosted on TikTok Live and then reposted on YouTube. So make sure you're following and subscribing all the places so you get all the MotoGP content you can possibly imagine. Now, today we're going to talk about Marc Marquez being yet again the king of the Sachsenring and why that is, and does anyone have any chance of catching him this year? Spoiler alert, not really. We're also going to talk about Jorge Martin and Aprilia. Maybe this is the last time we can talk about that this season because it seems like tensions have kind of eased a little bit. I didn't think it was possible, but there we go. And last but not least, we're going to talk about my weekend in MotoAmerica and why MotoAmerica is important for the next American MotoGP champion. All right, so let's dig right in with Marc Marquez and the Sachsenring. I think the only doubt any of us had going into this weekend, whether or not Marc Marquez was going to win, was himself. Was he going to throw it to the scenery? Was he going to push too hard? He said he was going full attack in Sachsenring from beginning to end. He wasn't going to play it conservative like he had at maybe the couple rounds previous. We saw him attack at Austin. He ended up on the ground. We saw him attack, Jerez? He ended up on the ground. So he was going full attack mode at the Sachsenring this weekend, and he attacked. He destroyed everyone. I don't think there was any question whether or not eventually he was going to be at the front and be way out front and basically say goodbye to everyone else. And there's a lot of talk about Marc Marquez at left-handed circuits, how good he is at left-handers. Even though apparently he's right-handed, this left-hand turn dominance is just like nothing we've ever seen before. And I can relate a little bit. I am not Marc Marquez, but on a motorcycle, I'm also a little more comfortable turning left than turning right. I don't know why that is. I don't know why when I go into a left-hand turn, I see through the turn better than when I go right, even though I'm right-handed. And that's what we're seeing with Marc Marquez. And this reminds me of something Valentino Rossi had said kind of after he retired. He did not offer this up during his career, but he did say upon his retirement, one of the secrets to his success was he was slightly ambidextrous, which meant that his dominant hand was better than most people's dominant hand, and his non-dominant side was better than most people's non-dominant side. So he could turn both ways. And he attributed a lot of that, or he attributed that to a lot of his success in MotoGP, being that he could be fast everywhere. That he's not just fast at this circuit or that, clockwise, anti-clockwise. He could be fast every single track. And obviously Marc Marquez can be fast at every single track, but he is very, very fast at left-handed tracks, and he proved it once again at the Sachsenring. Now, I was impressed with how close the racing was for a majority of the race and how people kind of stuck around and battled it out. The racing was pretty darn exciting until the pack just kind of did get spread out. And then obviously on Sunday we had mayhem of 8 crashers, only 10 finishers. Kind of wild, and it's not that unexpected when you have a track that goes left as much as Sachsenring, and then you ask yourself to go back onto the right side of the tire. And that tire is kind of cold, I think, at that point. I mean, turn 1 is the first time they go right in quite a ways, and we had a lot of crashes right there at turn 1. And so it's kind of expected. And the other thing I think that doesn't get mentioned as much for Marc Marquez is he's very good at judging that. He knows how to push on those left-hand corners, but he also knows how hard not to push when he has to go back onto that right side of the tire. So he's okay losing a little bit in those right-handers, taking care of the tire, making sure he's not pushing on that cold tire that's cooled off. And then in the left, he knows he's going to make it all back and it won't matter. So again, congratulations to Marc. It really does look like the championship, barring some sort of catastrophic injury, is kind of sewed up for Marc Marquez. He's light years ahead of anyone else, including his brother now. Alex Marquez had a great weekend. I mean, the fact that he's injured, has a broken hand, and still is coming through to be on the podium, be second, is absolutely incredible. it's going to be a really tough, back-to-back this week, but once we get into the summer break, he's going to come out the other side of the summer break, healed up and ready to race again. The real question coming out of the Sachsenring is, how many injuries are we going to carry next week into Brno? I mean, we had 8 riders crash. We had Vinales didn't even start. We had Samket Chantra didn't even start the race. Half of this paddock has been on the floor within the last 4 days. Morbidelli's wreck looked really bad. Jack Miller's high side looked bad, even though he did race. So we had a lot of people hit the floor, and we're going to have to see. We're all going to Brno for the first time in a long time. Some of these younger riders have never ridden a MotoGP bike there, and now they're going to be asked to push really hard in a place they've never been. On top of that, many of them are carrying injuries. So it's going to make this next weekend maybe another weekend where it's just survive the weekend and get to the summer break. Maybe you're not pushing for that podium. Maybe you're not pushing for that top 6. Just get some points, keep your body healthy so that you can go into the summer break and not be carrying a massive injury. Because this is the one time of year that if you have something kind of niggling, if you have elbow pain, wrist pain, ankle pain, this is the time of year when you want to make sure that nothing else is happening to you so that that summer break you can heal up and come back on the other end of it super, super strong. Now, the one thing the entire paddock has to look at is what are they working on after the summer break. And that's what we're going to be talking about in another episode where we kind of break down, well, now that Marc Marquez has seemingly wrapped up the championship, these other riders are competing for second or third. They're not necessarily competing for position, but maybe they're competing for small goals, moving the bike forward, moving themselves forward and all of that. Because like I said, I think we know that the championship from here on out is kind of locked in with Marc Marquez. Again, they have to ride every week. We never know what could happen from one week to the next. I don't think anyone thought there would be 8 crashers in this last week at Sachsenring. There was. So never say never, but as we're sitting here now, just on ability, no one is keeping pace with Marc. I said it last year, Marc Marquez on the best bike of the grid. Everyone else will be racing for second. All right, so let's move along to Jorge Martin and the seemingly never-ending Aprilia saga, which may be finally coming to an end because it feels like Jorge Martin has let cooler heads prevail and said, you know what? I'm staying where I'm at. You only have another 1.5 years on this contract. I mean, the first year in his contract is already half done. So paying a bunch of money to get out of that contract a year early maybe is starting to make less and less sense to Jorge Martin. Maybe this clause about him being able to escape because of the performance of the bike and him not being in the top 5, maybe it's not as ironclad as Jorge and his reps once said it was, and maybe there was going to be a massive buyout for him to have to actually get out of that contract. Was he willing to give up that sort of money to pay off Aprilia and then go to Honda and maybe race for free? We don't know what these dollar amounts were. So whether it was monetary, which I don't doubt that was part of the motivation, whether or not it's the improvements Aprilia is making on the bike, I don't really think that's the case. I could be wrong. I don't think he jumped on that bike and went, oh my gosh, revelations, I can win on this bike. I think what he's looking at is looking over at Honda, which is basically the only seat left open. I mean, maybe you could say there was a seat at Yamaha. I don't think so. But he's looking at that Honda motorcycle going, well, they're not there yet. Yes, we've seen some brilliance from, Mir at times has been fast. Marini wasn't actually half bad this last weekend, coming back from injury. And obviously we've seen Johan Zarco win, but Honda's not there to compete for a world title, not even close. Top 10s, top 6s, yes, but that's as high as that is really going for now. And so I think Jorge Martin looking at the Aprilia package going, well, Bez has won, he's put it on the podium. It's also maybe in the same boat as Honda, not strong everywhere, but it has potential. Maybe it has more potential than the Honda. The bike development is sure. That's a big motivation for him to stay where he's at. I do think the money and the headache and the time and the distraction it would take for him to fight this and win and race for someone else other than Aprilia next year, I think what that would equate to is time off the motorcycle. Let's say he just went the full court battle with Aprilia. They don't let him ride for the rest of this year. If they really think that that relationship isn't repairable, they don't let him ride for the rest of this year. So he's off a MotoGP bike for the rest of 2025. And if you're Aprilia, you let that drag on for as long as possible so your competitor can't have him. So now how much of 2026 is he off a MotoGP bike? meaning his next chance to really compete is 2027. As opposed to now, kissing and making up with Aprilia, at least on the surface, means even if they're not giving him all the updated parts because they're expecting him to leave at the end of 2026, he's got one foot out the door all season long, he's still at least on a MotoGP bike. He's keeping those muscles fresh. Now, hopefully Aprilia is going to try to give him the most latest and greatest bike. They're still going to treat him like a #1 rider. They're still going to prove to him that he can win a title on an Aprilia so he can fight next year, and they can say, hey, look, 2027, we're getting closer, regs are changing. We've got so many exciting things, you have to stay with us. Maybe that does happen. But for now, I think it just means keeping him on the grid. And if you're Jorge Martin, that's probably a smart move. Now, I personally didn't see this happening. I can 100% say I was wrong. I thought this relationship was not repairable. Jorge Martin's words to the media, and it seems to confidence and friends and management, seemed so strong. It didn't seem like something that Aprilia could kind of get over and get back behind this guy. Like, once your teammate quits on you, you're not really willing to go all in on somebody. And it did kind of sound like Jorge Martin quit on them. And so from my perspective, I was thinking from Aprilia going, why do you even want this dude around? I know you've invested money, you've invested time, you've put your eggs in this basket. He needs to be your #1 rider. He needs to be developing this bike. And now he's saying goodbye. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And they did kind of come out with a different attitude that Honda did when Marc said he was to leave. Honda said, hey, if Marc wants to leave, we can't really do anything. We're not going to do any better with an upset Marc Marquez stuck in a contract for 2 years. We're going to let him go. Aprilia, I said, sounded a lot more desperate. They were going to use every avenue to keep Jorge Martin in the fold. And upon looking back, it seems as if for now that was the right thing to do. That was the right move on their part. We'll see if it bears fruit over the next year and a half, but we don't know if this will, ultimately be the right choice. But for now, it seems like it is the right choice for Aprilia and Jorge Martin to patch things up, get him back on the bike. Hopefully they can develop the bike together and move forward together. And for Jorge, worst case scenario, you muddle through the next year and a half. He's still very, very young. He shows all the other teams what he can still do on a bike, what a good soldier he is for your team, and then he can jump ship to Honda, Yamaha, wherever he wants in the future. Put up or shut up time. Playing for a contract. Okay, so here we go. The hat. And the things that Keanu Reeves and I have in common. Well, this last weekend, if you've been following along, I was at Superbike Speedfest, MotoAmerica in Laguna Seca for one of the rounds. And the reason I bring it up is that a lot of people like to complain, well, there's no Americans in MotoGP. I can't follow a sport when there's no Americans in the sport. I need someone to cheer for. I hear you. I don't agree with you. I think there are a lot of people to cheer for in MotoGP. I think if you're into the sport, you can find your heroes. Your heroes don't necessarily have to be from your country. I mean, how many Americans think Lionel Messi is their favorite soccer player? I hate to break it to you, he's not American. So I don't really buy that argument, but okay, if that's your argument for not watching MotoGP, there's no Americans in it, well, let me tell you how we get Americans in it. Now, right now, we have a couple people in the pipeline. We have Christian Daniels, who's in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. We have Joe Robertson's in Moto2. They are kind of already in the pipeline for MotoGP, but we need more riders over there. I mean, it's the Spanish and Italian and French, all these riders, they have such an ecosystem that pushes them right into the MotoGP pipeline, right to the Red Bull Rookies Cup, all these things. Well, MotoAmerica is our thing. It's our national series. It's where our riders have to be groomed to move up the ranks and get to the road to MotoGP. There currently is in MotoAmerica a road to MotoGP program, and it's going to be getting bigger year after year, and we're going to see it grow. We're going to see them be put on bikes very similar to what's being used in Europe, and so that the transition from the machinery from here to there will be much less. So if you want to see Americans in MotoGP, you have to come out to MotoAmerica. I'm not saying you have to follow the sport every week. I'm not saying you have to go to every race. I'm not saying you have to buy the MotoAmerica Live Plus description. But if there is an event in your area, go to the event. Meet the riders. The paddock is wide open. You can walk around. You can see all the bikes. You can meet and get stuff signed by all your favorite riders all weekend long. Saturday and Sunday, they're just there for you to talk to. It is the most open sport I've ever seen. You have MotoGP legend John Hopkins in the paddock, in a tent, shaking hands, shooting the shit with people. Just hanging out. I had a 20-minute conversation with this guy. He loves motorcycle racing. He is so invested in the future of American motorcycle racing and getting Americans back to MotoGP. But it starts at home. So if there is a MotoAmerica event in your area, which you're hard-pressed if there's not one sometime this season somewhere near you. I mean, Virginia, Wisconsin, Atlanta, Seattle, California, Texas, they're all over the place. New Jersey, there's going to be one in your area. It's not an expensive ticket. Get to MotoAmerica, go meet the riders, buy some merch, get them to sign your stupid hat. Get invested in the sport here at home. Who knows? You may find your next hometown hero. We've got some young riders who are very, very fast, who are hopefully going to be competing on the world level in the next few years. Alessandro Di Mario, Kayla Yakov, we've got people in this sport. And we have Keanu Reeves, team for Arch Motorcycles in the Super Hooligans class, bringing a lot of heat to MotoAmerica. He's there to race. Yes, he's there to race as a team owner, of course. But he's also there to raise the interest in the sport at all. They're entering a category that's very accessible for manufacturers to get into. It's not, you don't have to be a bajillionaire to own a race team in the Super Hooligans. But what he's really doing there is he's shining that light on MotoAmerica, saying, guys, this is where we start. This is where we build this together. That's what Horsepower Rodeo has been about since the very first video I posted from Portugal at the beginning of 2021. MotoAmerica is doing the same exact thing. And they've got the firepower, the star power, the motorcycle power to put some oomph behind this whole thing. So I hope that you get the chance to get out there and watch the Superbikes, the Baggers, the Hooligans, the Twins Cup, the Royal Enfields, there's so many classes to watch on a week-to-week basis. There's so much racing. It is a packed weekend. And I think tickets in Laguna were $90 for 3 days. 3 days of access for $90. It's a hell of a deal. So get yourself out to a race. It's amazing. Hopefully I'll get to more races too. I met some fans this weekend, met some fun, really cool people that I've already talked to online, met them out there at the races, got to exchange high fives and watch a race with them and all that good stuff. It's a great time. And so I don't buy this idea that we can't have Americans back in this world sport. We just have to make the effort. And that starts with the fans. That starts with interest. There can't be money pumped into a sport that no one wants to watch. So if you're coming out to the races, you're supporting your favorite riders, you're buying the merch, you're buying the tickets, you're buying the coffees in the morning and the lunch at the vendor food stalls, and just coming out and having a great time, we can grow the sport and we can put America back on the world stage. And that's the point, isn't it? All right, thank you so much. It's been a quick Monday morning MotoGP, recorded not on Monday. Sorry, not sorry, we're here anyway. I'm glad you joined me. Thanks for everyone that watched the live on TikTok, and now it will be over on YouTube, posted there under the Monday Morning MotoGP podcast playlist. You can get everything there. Subscribe, make sure you're following, liking, sharing, mashing all the buttons, and we'll see you all very, very soon.